Hello, and welcome to an episode of the Armchair Traveler Investigates. I'm Judy. When I prepare my travel videos, I do a great deal of research, much of which never makes it to the screen. Sometimes I end up diving down inescapable dead ends. My husband laughs and calls them rabbit holes. But other times I learn something new, and when I do, I keep notes so I can share it. Although these stories may not fit into a virtual walking tour, they still offer valuable insights into how and why things happen the way they do. When we visited Tours, the link is in the description box below, one of our stops was at the remains of the Abbey of St. Martin. This incredible site has many stories of musical heritage that shape the very essence of our world today. So relax and learn a bit of musical history with me, the Armchair Traveler, as your personal Miss Marple and your guide. During our virtual walks in the Loire Valley, we've learned quite a bit about how the area evolved from a group of Roman camps through medieval fortresses, and we are now edging to the beginning of the Renaissance. Government, religion, architecture, even music. None of it changed from one style or type to another in one fell swoop. Each style evolved, with the older styles sometimes fiercely defended and the newer often derided, until the new became accepted. Evolution and change occurred in fits and starts. I briefly mentioned the significance of music during our virtual visit to Tours. Today we're going to take a deeper look at the development of music from grunts to the beginnings of the Renaissance. Looked at from our point of view, the changes seem dazzling, but we need to keep in mind that while change was inevitable, these changes were not. People changed, and so did their needs. Long before humans could write, we could sing. Rhythm and melody were our first tools of memory, ways to carry stories, celebrate victories, and mourn the dead. Around ancient fires, voices rose together to keep the darkness away. In ancient Greece, before ink and parchment, poets like Homer sang the Iliad and the Odyssey to the thrum of a lyre. Songs made stories unforgettable. A living library passed from mouth to mouth and generation to generation. Music in those days wasn't entertainment. It was about survival and a way to remember who we were and how we got to where we are. When Christianity began spreading across Europe, most believers could not read. The scriptures lived in Latin, the language of scholars and priests. Most ordinary people couldn't speak or read it either. So the church turned to two languages that everyone could understand, images and song. Stained glass told the stories in color and light, and music carried them in sound. St. Augustine wrote that to sing is to pray twice. Inside cathedral walls, voices met stone and became something larger, a prayer that could be felt, even by those who didn't understand a word of Latin. The earliest form of Christian music was called the chant. The voices were in unison. There were no instruments and no harmony. The most famous, the Gregorian chant, developed under Pope Gregory the Great. Monks memorized hundreds of melodies for each hour of prayer, matins, vespers, and compline. In Tours, the Abbey of St. Martin became a beacon for this sacred music. There, scribes began marking the first musical symbols, tiny dots called neumes, the ancestors of modern notes. These chants were devotion, not performance, and sung to God, not to applause. Then came a revolution of sound. Some singers began to hold the chant while others moved above or below it. A second voice in harmony. This new art was polyphony, which just means many sounds. At Tours' Abbey of St. Martin, musicians nurtured the idea. Two voices became three, weaving and resolving. For the first time, Western ears heard depth, tension, and beauty born of different. The spark was lit in Tours. Long before the Renaissance, Europe was already singing. By the 12th century, troubadours from Aquitaine traveled from castle to castle, performing songs of love, chivalry, and human emotion. Their melodies were still monophonic, just with single line, but the content was very different, full of elegance and wit. Eleanor of Aquitaine then the powerful Queen of France, loved this music and invited Aquitanian troubadours to her court in Paris, making her palace a center for artistic exchange. The troubadours weren't universally loved. The church viewed their songs with suspicion. Love, longing, and passion didn't always fit their Christian ideals, yet the royal courts generally adored them. Nobles admired their elegance, while ordinary people hummed their tunes at festivals and fairs. In a way, these songs helped Europe find a voice outside the church, celebrating the human heart. Meanwhile, inside the great cathedrals, a new music experience was underway. Composers like Leonin and Perrotin at Notre Dame in Paris began layering melodies over the ancient chants, creating polyphony, multiple independent voices singing together. No women sang in these church choirs. All the parts were performed by men and boys. Adult clerics held the slow-moving chant in the tenor, while boy trebles, or adult falsettos, carried the higher, more ornamental lines. Together, their voices filled the cathedral, echoing like the architecture itself. So did the troubadours lead to polyphony, and did polyphony lead to the Renaissance? Not exactly. Eleanor's courts and the popularity of troubadours created an audience ready for more complex music. In essence, the troubadours set the stage, and church composers built the architecture of sound. The troubadours celebrated the human heart. Church musicians discovered harmony. Together they paved the way for the Renaissance, a world where human emotion and divine order could finally sing together in tune at the same time. Why do we sing? Because it's something we've always done. From the heartbeat of the first drum to the soaring vocals of a cathedral choir, music embodies humanity's journey. Rhythm is survival, harmony is connection, dissonance is protest, and melody is hope. Tours was one of the epicenters of this evolution, where faith intertwines with artistic expression and voices united in beautiful harmony. Thank you for joining me on this episode of The Armchair Traveler Investigates. If you found this journey entertaining, hit that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and share it with your friends. Your click will help me bring this content to more people. Come back next time for another adventure with me, Judy, the Armchair Traveler, as your guide.